Light is in.
Good morning, everyone. Yesterday we started with the measuring systems, third unit, and we have covered the basic, some of the definitions, what exactly is a measurement system, various components of a measurement system, and then we had gone through various factors that are included in measuring systems, various elements or various parameters, important points. And then we started with explaining the components of measuring system, okay, in general. So today we'll start with, as we have gone through, just a quick repetition of the previous class. A measurement, general measurement system, it will work in 3 stages, right? So first stage is primary detector stage, and next intermediate modifying stage, and last one output or terminating stage. Okay, so in the first stage we have primary detector stage. Here the main components are transducers. So let's discuss transducers in detail. What exactly is a transducer, what is the working principle, and what are the various types of transducer, and what are the acceptable characteristics. This is the plan of action for today's class. Okay, so let's go through. As we discussed, what do you mean by transducer? Transducer, it is a device that converts one form of energy into another form in general. Okay, so with respect to measurement system, we defined, or we discussed it as, we defined it as, transducer is the one which senses the physical variable and converts the physical variable into a signal, input signal in an analogous form for the next stage, that is intermediate stage. So as I said, it is a device that converts one form of energy into another form. Okay. The detecting or sensing element of a measuring system first makes contact with the quantity to be measured, that is a physical variable, be it a measurement of temperature, pressure, measurement of force, anything. It comes in contact with the measuring system and makes contact with the and then senses information, okay, and then it is immediately transduced into analogous form. Okay, and the transducer may be anything like your mechanical, electrical, optical, magnetic, piezoelectric. Okay, based on the applications we may choose a wide variety of transducers. Okay. So now there is something very important that is called as transfer efficiency. How do we say one transducer is a very good transducer? What is the parameter? Okay, so the parameter here, it is transfer efficiency, to decide whether the transducer is a good one or not. So how it is transfer efficiency? As you can see here, I del divided by I send. What it is? It is information delivered divided by information sensed. Okay, it is this equation is derived based on or depending on the information sensed and delivered by the sensor. This ratio cannot be more than unity, since the sensor device cannot generate any information on its own. Hence, it is desirable to have a sensor with very high transfer efficiency. Whenever you put this ratio, you find out some value, this transfer efficiency for any transducer, if it is very high, then we consider it as a good transducer. Okay, so always it is desirable to have a sensor or a transducer or a detector with very high transfer efficiency. Next is classification of transducers. There are various ways in which the transducers are classified. The first one is, it is not there in the slide, I will just write it down here. Okay. First type of transducer is primary and secondary transducers. So what it is? I just draw this block diagram so you will clearly understand what it is. Yesterday when we were going through the general measurement system block diagram, there was only one transducer. Okay, together we considered one transducer. But here just see, primary, secondary transducer. It is intermediate analogous signal. Here it is analogous of output driving signal. Okay, so there are certain transducer which only senses. Okay, sometimes we may need one more transducer, that is called as secondary transducer, to effectively convert the signal or whatever it is sensed quantity into the analogous signal sometimes. Okay, so it's again you can call it as a classification. There are primary transducer means their work is only to sense the physical variable or physical quantity of the surface, only to sense it. Okay, it doesn't do the conversion work, it doesn't convert the signal, but at the next stage whatever it is sensing, it is going to send it to the secondary transducer. Here actual conversion happens, conversion of physical variable into the sensed signal into the analogous signal to the next stage, that is intermediate stage. Okay, sometimes it's only sometimes in the very first stage, that is detecting and sensing stage, first stage, there only we can have these two types of transducer embedded together. Okay, so that's about your primary and secondary. Why it is called as primary? It does only the primary function of sensing the surface or sensing the physical quantity. No conversion happens here. So such types of transducers are called as primary transducers. And secondary transducers are the one which receive the sensed signal from the primary transducer and convert it to the analogous signal. Okay, the output from the secondary signal will be analogous signal to the next stage. That's why they are called as secondary. Here they don't sense anything. Here they don't convert anything. Primary transducer. Okay, I think this is clear. It's one of the types of classifications. Next, based on the principle of transduction. So how the transduction happens? Whether the transduction happens into capacitance or resistance or inductance values. What is the kind of output? Okay, so this is purely based on how the input quantity is transduced into capacitance, resistance and inductance value. How the input quantity is going to be. Okay, based on this they have classified the transducers. Some of the examples or types of transducers under this would be capacitive transducers, resistive transducers and inductive transducers. These transducers can also be piezoelectric, thermoelectric or magnetostrictive, electrokinetic and optical. Any type, it may be any type. So this is based on the principle of transduction. Next is active and passive transducers. As the name itself suggests, active transducers are of a self-generative type. Means self-generative means what? They develop their own voltage or current output. I will just show you this. Here, active transducers, they are self-generative. They don't need any auxiliary power supply or the auxiliary power source to sense the signal and convert it. Okay, they develop their own voltage or current output. So they are called as active transducers. Here the energy required to produce output is derived from the physical quantity being measured. See, one beauty of this active transducer is whenever it senses the physical variable, from the physical variable it extracts the energy and it will generate their own voltage and current output. It is derived from the physical quantity they are measuring. That is active transducer, and some of the examples are piezoelectric crystals. They are usually used for force or acceleration measurement. Tacho generators, thermocouples and photovoltaic cells. I think you all know how a photovoltaic cell works. It is self-generative. It generates its own current and voltage outputs. So this is active transducer. Next is passive transducer. Here you can see there is auxiliary power supply for the measurement system. There is an input signal and there is an auxiliary power source and output signal. So they derive the power required for transduction from an auxiliary source. A part of the power required for generating the output is derived from the physical quantity being measured, but a part of the energy or power is given by, it need an auxiliary power source. Okay, it doesn't completely depend on the auxiliary power source, though it generates a little amount of voltage from the physical quantity being measured, but also it needs auxiliary power. That's why it is called as passive transducer. Okay, and further these transducers remain passive in the absence of an external power source. If there is no external power source, they will be very passive. And some of the examples for this would be resistive, capacitive and inductive transducers. All of them electrical transducers would be some of the examples for passive transducers. So next, analog and digital transducers. Again, as the name itself suggests, the output will be based on how the output would look like from the transducer. What kind of the output or in what format the output is being given out. So analog and digital transducers. Here in case of analog transducer, what happens? Analog means what? It will be always a function of a time function of continuous function. Okay, so the input quantity is converted into an analog output which is continuous function of time. Some of the examples would be your LVDT, strain gauge, thermocouple and thermistor. And if the transducer converts the input quantity into an electrical signal here in the sense in the form of pulses as output, then it is called as digital transducer. Here it is not a continuous function of time, but it is discrete in nature. Okay, the digital display will be there. In fact, it is easier to process and transmit data as a function of two numbers 0 and 1. So this is about your analog and digital transducers. Next is direct and inverse types of transducers. See here, when a measuring device measures and transforms a non-electrical variable into electrical variable, it is called as direct transducer. I will just show you the picture. See here, a non-electrical signal is converted into an electrical signal. That time it is called as direct transducer. Some of the examples would be a thermocouple that is used to measure temperature, radiation and heat flow. Okay, so thermocouple is a direct transducer. And if an electrical quantity is transformed into non-electrical quantity, then it is called as the inverse transducer. So one of the very common example for this would be your piezoelectric crystal, wherein voltage is given as the output. It senses and the output is in the form of a voltage, that is electrical output. So this is because when voltage is applied across its surface, its dimensions are changed, causing the mechanical displacement. Okay, so just go through this, how a direct transducer and inverse transducer works, from electrical to non-electric signal and non-electric to electric signal. Very simple. Next, null and deflection type transducer. So again, this is based on the null and deflection principle. Here, let's see first one, the null type device. It works on the principle of maintaining the zero deflection by applying an appropriate known effect that opposes the one generated by the measured quantity. So what it is, here this device works on the principle, or it tries to maintain the zero deflection. In that instrument, whose working principle is null type, they try to maintain a zero deflection. How they are going to maintain the zero deflection? By applying an appropriate known effect, okay, just to oppose the one generated by the measured quantity. Okay, there will be certain effect happening on the measured quantity, but the measuring system, it tries to balance it out, or it tries to maintain the zero deflection by opposing it, or by applying a appropriate known effect, so that it can oppose the changes that are happening or things that are generating by the measured quantity. Okay, so that's how there will be no deflection. Null means zero, so there will be no deflection or zero deflection. So that is your null type of deflection, null type of transducer. And this type of transducer requires a detector capable of detecting an imbalance and a means to restore a balance either manually or automatically. So here restoring the balance is very important, or it is necessary to maintain the zero deflection. Okay, so the detector must be capable of, that is the sensing device, it must be capable of detecting an imbalance. If there are any imbalances, it should be able to detect it and restore it by producing the opposite effect. So since it is required to balance the deflection perfectly at the zero level, in order to determine the numerical values, precise information of the magnitude of the opposing effect is essential. Whenever, for example, you are measuring a surface, you are measuring a physical variable, it is producing certain effects. You must know the precise information, what kind of effect it is, and it should be very precise, and you should also know the magnitude, so that you can create a opposing effect by using this null type transducer. Okay, so based by considering all these points, these null type transducers are made, because that is the main working principle of the null transducers. So one of the major disadvantage of this method is it cannot be used for dynamic measurements, because there will be so many variations, and some of the examples would be your dead weight pressure gauge and equal arm balances. Okay, so next is deflection type transducer. It works on the principle that the measured quantity produces a physical effect that stimulates an analogous effect in the opposite direction in some parts of the measuring instrument. See, it is here there will be a deflection. Okay, it works on the principle that here the measured quantity always produces an effect, but this effect is going to stimulate an analogous effect in the opposite direction in some part of the measuring instrument, hence producing the deflection. Okay, and there is an increase in the opposing effect until a balance is restored. For example, if you take your dial gauge or your pressure gauges, how it happens? Rudimentary pressure gauge or a deflection transducer, how it is? The measured quantity, it is producing an effect and it stimulates the analogous effect in the opposite direction, and at some point the opposing force increases and it strikes the balance. The balance is restored at a certain amount of deflection. That deflection is converted into the analogous signal. Okay, and example would be a rudimentary pressure gauge. Okay, another example will be your spring balance system, and this calibration of the spring determines the accuracy in a deflection type instrument. Okay. So these are the various types of transducers. So just a quick repetition. So first, primary and secondary transducers, and next, based upon the principle of transduction, we have capacitive, resistive and inductive transducer. Next is active and passive transducers based on the dependency on the auxiliary power source. Next is analog and digital transducer based on the type of output. Next, direct and inverse transducer means how the signals are converted from electrical to non-electrical and non-electrical to electrical conversion of the signals. And next, null and deflection type. Okay, how the readings are taken. Okay, so this is classification of transducer. Next, there are a certain set of quality attributors. Quality attributes a transducer or a good transducer should have. Okay, let's go through them one by one. First one is repeatability. So repeatability, yesterday as we discussed, repeatability always concerns with the precision. So here transducer should be precise as well as accurate. Here repeatability is, if we consider it with reference to the transducer, how many times, no matter how many times you use that transducer, it should give the uniform or same readings, or same output should be there, similar output. Okay, that is repeatability. It should possess high accuracy and repeatability. Next is linearity. As we discussed yesterday, linearity, it is how we are incrementing the input in a similar fashion, the output should also get incremented. Okay, so it should have a very high degree of linearity with the specified operating range. Also, we have discussed linearity cannot be always, we cannot fix a term, or we cannot be 100% sure, but we can define the linearity, or we can mention the linearity with a certain operating range. Okay. Similarly, for transducer, for a certain operating range, the input and output should increment uniformly. That is desirable. Next is dynamic response. It should be again instantaneous. Here it is threshold. The threshold values should not be very large, or the dynamic response should be very quick, instantaneous. It should not take more time to sense it and send it to the next stage. Okay, it should be quick. Impedance, it is related to the electric signals, capacitance, resistance. Okay, it should have high input impedance and low output impedance for loading effect elimination. Okay, so whenever there is a loading effect, to eliminate it, it should always have, the transducer should always have high input impedance, and for output it should have low impedance. That is desirable. Next is high resolution. It should have good resolution over the complete selected range, and size, it should be preferably small, right? We always expect the transducer should be small preferably. And hysteresis, the transducer should possess low or no hysteresis. If means, what is hysteresis? As we discussed yesterday, no matter how you take the reading, the hysteresis means ascending order or descending order, no matter how you are going to use the transducer, ascending order or descending order, it should give out the similar values as the output. Okay, so transducer should possess low or no hysteresis. If it is possess no hysteresis, it is well and good, but still there it ought to have certain amount of hysteresis, and that should be low, very low. Robustness, next one, it should be able to endure pressure, vibrations, shocks, and rough handling. Okay, it is, I think, applicable for all the instruments that we use in our laboratories. They should be robust. And adaptability, it should be capable of working in a corrosive environment. That particular instrument transducer, it should not get corroded very easily. And sensitivity, cross sensitivity of the transducer should be 0 or minimum, and it should exhibit high sensitivity to the desired signal. Okay, whenever it is sensing the surfaces, okay, it should exhibit high sensitivity to, so that it can give away, or it can give the output in the desired signal. Okay, so that is sensitivity. And stability and reliability, again it is acceptable to have high rate of reliability and stability. Next is response. It should have a requisite time domain specification of transient and frequency response. See, most of the times it will be dealing with the signals. It is going to sense it and converting it. That, and the response, it should have a response time. Response time should be less. It shouldn't take more time. So this requisite time domain specification of transient and frequency response, okay, that is desirable. So this is all about the transducers. So the next stage after the transducer, it is intermediate stage, that is intermediate modifying stage. So what happens here, as we all discussed, here in the, as we know, primary detector transducer stage usually detects a mechanical quantity and it converts it into the electrical form. But in the intermediate stage, what happens, the transduced signal, it has to be further modified and amplified with the help of conditioning and processing devices, so that the signal is appropriate before passing it on to the output or terminating stage for display. Before sending it to the display, there has to be certain amplification and modification needs to be done for the signal, so that we can give the instrument can give out the proper output display. So why it is needed? Signal conditioning. Why it is needed? It is needed in order to enhance the condition of the signal obtained in the first stage by reducing the noise and filtering, such that signal to noise ratio is increased. Okay, the main aspect or why it has to be done is to enhance the signal condition by reducing the noise and filtering. Okay, there are various methods with which this modification and amplification or this signal processing or conditioning of the signal is happened, that we'll see in the further classes. So if required, the obtained signal has to be processed further by means of attenuation, integration. There are various process with which we can do it. So hence the dynamic measurement of mechanical quantities imposes severe strain on the elements of the intermediate stage. So in the primary stage, it's very simple, it has to sense it and send it, but all the process that is going to happen in the intermediate stage. Okay. So let's see this. Okay, we'll directly go through the electrical intermediate modifying devices. Okay, there are various drawbacks of mechanical devices. All your mechanical systems, it's not there in a syllabus. We have directly electrical intermediate modifying devices. But before starting that, we should know what are the drawbacks of mechanical systems. Okay, here transient response in mechanical systems, this transient, that is momentary response characteristics, which are essential for dynamic measurement, suffer due to friction and inertia. Whenever you use mechanical system, there will be friction and inertia. Okay, it is going to hamper the conversion. Further, mechanical systems, they become bulky and heavy when attempts are made to improve them or to provide them with required rigidity. Okay, so these are the these two are the main concerns with the mechanical systems. So they have come up with or the advantages of these electrical devices or electrical intermediate modifying devices. Let's see one by one. Here first important point is amplification or attenuation can be realized easily. Increased power output can be obtained by employing power amplifiers, which is not possible in mechanical systems because mechanical counterparts for power amplifiers are not available. But for electrical systems, they are available, power amplifiers. We can use power amplifiers and increase the output. And amplification becomes very easy and it can be realized easily. Whenever there is a signal that is amplified, we can sense it. And effect of mass inertia and friction are minimized because no mechanical system is used here. An output power of almost any magnitude can be provided based on different types of what type of amplifiers you are going to use. Next, remote indication of recording is possible. Remote telemetry and control are essential aspects of the aerospace and RDC here. By using this, remote indication of recording is possible. You can use, you don't have to be there, you can use these systems at remote areas where there is no manual intervention, but you can still receive the signals. And see, transducers are commonly susceptible to miniaturization, especially in integrated circuits, which are being extensively employed in the field of instrumentation. Okay, so it is acceptable to have, desirable to have electrical intermediate modifying devices. Okay. So what are the various types or various devices we are going to use? There are some of them we will go through. First one is input circuitry. There we have four of them. Simple current sensitive circuits. Okay, any normal current sensitive circuits, ballast circuits, voltage dividing circuits, and voltage balancing potentiometer circuits. So these are the four types in input circuitry. And let's see them one by one. First one is simple current sensitive circuits. Okay, this is a very simple one or very basic one which can be used in any type of measuring system. The electric modifying device. Here a simple current sensitive, it is shown in the figure. See, if you closely look at it, it has a transducer, okay, which may be in any of the different forms of variable resistance elements. Okay, here the transducer is in the form of resistance elements, if you can see there. Okay, let KRT be the transducer resistance. If you can see here, this is resistance type transducer, this one on the right side. Okay, and RT represents the maximum value of the transducer resistance, and K represents the factor that depends on the magnitude of the input signal and varies between 0% to 100%. Okay, here we can consider it as a K as the factor or constant where it depends on the magnitude of the input. It varies, okay, based on the input signal from 0% to 100%. Okay, if a sliding contact resistor is used as a transducer element, the value of K varies through the complete range. Okay, if you use a normal type transducer, sometimes you may not get the complete range, but here whenever you are using the sliding contact type of resistor, then we are going to get complete range, that is from 0 to 100% variation for factor K. Okay, and let RR be, RR represents the remaining resistance of the circuit, and IO be the current flowing through the circuit. Okay, so there is your RR, and there is a current indicator or recorder for the sensing output current IO. Okay, so these are components of your simple current sensitive circuit. Okay. So that's how the output is generated based on the what type of resistance transducer you are going to use. Okay, so next one, ballast circuit. See here, if you can see the, or you can just compare this or simple current sensitive circuits with ballast circuit. Here there is voltage indicator or recorder for sensing output voltage E0. Okay, here it is a variation of current sensitive, sorry, a voltage sensitive device. It is there it is voltage sensitive device is placed across the transducer in the circuit instead of a current sensitive recorder or indicator. Here if you could see, there after the resistance type of transducer, between the transducers we have current indicator or recorder for current type of sensing, but here in ballast circuit you have voltage indicator. There you have current indicator, and here you have voltage indicator or recorder for sensing output voltage. Okay, so it is placed across the transducer in the circuit, and a ballast resistor RB is introduced into the circuit. If you can see there, RB, I think it's not very clearly seen there, it's there up, RB. that is a ballast resistor. It is important to note that in the absence of RB, the indicator will not indicate any change with variation in RT and always show full source voltage. It is thus necessary to incorporate some value of resistance in the circuit to ensure its proper functioning depending on the impedance of the meter. Okay, two situations may arise. First one, if in case some form of vacuum tube voltmeter which has high impedance was employed, the current that flows through the meter is neglected. But if a low impedance meter is used, the current flow through the meter has to be considered based on the what type of impedance or what type of vacuum tube voltmeter you are going to use. Okay. So that is your ballast circuit. So here you can remember these two circuits by just remembering whether current indicator is used or the voltage indicator is used and what is the factor K. So next is electronic amplifiers, that is single stage amplifier circuit, and okay, so let's go through this. I think the diagram is not clearly visible. Okay, we'll just go through it. Electronic amplifiers, it is again one more type of amplifier, that is single stage. It is called a single stage amplifier circuit. Here the principle employed in the working of vacuum tube is based on the fact that when a cathode is heated, electrons are emitted, yes, and emitted electrons get attracted to a positively charged plate, resulting in a flow of current through the plate circuit. Next, the third element called a grid, it can be used to control the flow of current. Okay, the grid is introduced between the cathode and the plate such that it is duly charged negatively relative to the cathode. The negative voltage on the grid is termed as bias. The current flow in the plate circuit, including the amplifier load, can be regulated by the variations in the charge on the grid supplied by the input signal. Okay. And it can be seen from the figure that it's not properly seen there. A, if you can see here, it heats the filament, which in turn heats the cathode tube, that is vacuum tube, and here B represents the plate supply and the required bias voltage is supplied by C. Okay, all the things are mentioned in the diagram. Okay, so normally in an amplifier what happens, a common supply makes use of voltage dividers or dropping resistors to obtain various voltages. If greater amplification is required, tubes with more elements can be incorporated and stages can be interconnected in such a way that the load for the input stage is a second stage and so on. Based on what type of, if you need greater amplification for the signal processing, that time you can use more elements so that you can divide the voltage. Okay, so it is in general, there are various types of voltage dividing devices. Okay, this is one in general, we can consider it as electronic or single stage amplifier circuit. But if you need to divide it in different stages, then you can use more number of elements. Okay, so that's all about your intermediate stage electric devices. Hope you have understood. So that completes your third unit. So just quick recap of your third unit, entire third unit. we discussed the measuring, a general measuring system, what are the various elements involved in this, what are the various factors to be considered, and then different types, what is a transducer, different types of transducer classification, then attributes, acceptable or desirable attributes for the transducer, and next intermediate stage, that is where modifying and amplification of the signal happens and why it is needed, and how these electrical devices are better than mechanical devices, or what are the drawbacks of mechanical devices, and different types of these electrical devices. In that we studied these four: simple current sensitive circuits, ballast circuits, and voltage divider and voltage balancing potentiometer circuits. So that completes your third unit. Okay, thank you.